could look better, because I'm vain. I'm so
You're
vain. I
fine.
thought every song was about me. Jason Outlaw is here, you guys. And those of you on Jason's page, hi. This is your Jason getting interviewed. Oh, I'm so glad to have you here, Jason.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's awesome. We finally got a chance to connect.
I know, in person like this. This is almost in the flesh.
Yeah,
I had to
almost.
throw my phone away. It was dinging. Booty calls are wearing me out. Okay, back to you. So I looked up your bio. I don't like to spy because I'm from the 50s. That's spying.
Uh,
But I
yeah.
looked, I cheated, and I found out that not only is Jason Outlaw. Jason, did you know you're an actor and a comic, and you're also something else? Actor, comedian, you own a business,
Yeah,
singer.
yeah,
You're a huge
yes,
singer.
yeah. Well, I mean, because I was trained, musical theater as well. So when I was in college, I worked in a little '50s diner at the Stratosphere. It's called Roxy's Diner, and we all like sang and danced and stuff like that. We were like singing and dancing waiters, and it was like the best job ever. It was so much fun. But yeah. So I sing and do all kinds of stuff. Produce do a little producing as well and all that fun stuff.
What do you produce?
Well, there's a show called Television TV that we had over at the Mandalay Bay for 2 years. It was a sketch comedy show. Very like when you think like Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, and Living Color, that sort of thing. Really cool show, lots of fun. Yeah. So it was a great show. We had a blast with it. It was super fun.
I would think if you worked at Roxy's Diner that you probably also do improv.
Yes, yeah. I do have an improv background as well, so I do all kinds of fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Improv's a blast. I love doing improv though. I mean, it's one of the harder art forms to do, but definitely I think I mean, I know people that do improv that are still scared to death of doing stand-up comedy. So I think stand-up's one of the hardest because it's just you got no one else up there, right? So
Yeah,
it's a very interesting art form.
it is. It's like improv and sketch are probably better if you're a good team player. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize about improv is if it's about making the other people look good, right? It's about setting them up. It's about if you can make other people look good. I mean, I did a show called Tony and Tina's Wedding out here for years.
What was it?
It was called Tony and Tina's Wedding.
You did
It
that?
was yeah. I played Tony's best man in that show for a long time. That's actually where I
That's
met my
huge.
wife. Yeah,
What?
yeah. So yeah. I mean, in that show, maybe 10% of it was scripted. The rest of it was all improv. So we just made it up every night as we went. So you got really good at improv in that, and there were some amazing improv actors in that show. But it's all about setting up the other person. It's like you get the laugh together, not for yourself, right? It's all about a group effort.
Well, if everybody goes into improv with that attitude, and everybody's setting up the other person, it's probably like a really bad game of volleyball. Who's going to take it over?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think it's that give and take of like you set them up, they knock it down, they set you up, you knock it down. It goes back and forth. It's all about, if you're playing volleyball, it's all about who the spiker is, right? The spiker is the guy that gets that hits the joke, right?
It's like, how do they decide who gets to be the fun, say the funny line? Everybody just feels it and everybody just goes with it and says, he took 15 punchlines, yes, and next time he
No. It's just one of those things you just kind of feel it, right? Like you just get and sometimes your character plays more of the straight man to other characters, because other characters are a little more out there and have more like incongruity to them, So it's like your character is going to play a little more of the straight man to that, and then sometimes your character, someone's playing the straight man to your character, so you get the laughs. It's a give and take, I mean, but overall, it was such a fun show to do, and we had a really good time doing
it
it. I
went
mean,
on for
that show,
years. How many years
yeah,
did?
14 years, I
Jeez,
think.
Jason.
Yeah, it was a long show. It was a long show. I mean, I wasn't there the whole time, but it was a fun show. It was a great show. Yeah, I think I was there probably about like 8 or 9 of the years.
Oh my gosh. Tell me when you first realized that acting, singing, comedy was going to be your future.
Wow. Yeah. I had a really weird road getting into the industry because when I first started out, I mean, I hated to be in front of people. Like I couldn't stand it. It was like the worst feeling in the world for me because I had a really bad stuttering problem when I was a kid.
Oh,
And then yeah, and then as I went into high school and I took a theater class because they said it was the easiest class to take. They were like, "Oh, it's an easy A," and I said, "Okay, cool." So I took the class and I was like, "Oh man," I'm sitting in class and I go, "Oh, you got to get up on stage." So then, it's like everything I would do, I'd be like, "Look, just give me the least lines possible. I just want to say like one thing and then just move on and not have to do anything." And then my teacher goes, "Hey, you should audition for the school play." And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen." And she was like, "No, you should." And so she kept at me until I promised I would. And then the day of, I still wasn't going to do it. I was like getting ready to leave campus, and she was standing out there. She goes, "Hey, aren't you going to audition for the play?" And I go, "Oh yeah, my mom's here to pick me up." And she goes, "Nope, nope, I'll put you up first. Come on up." And she just threw me on stage. And that audition, I met one of my best friends in the whole world still to this day, and I kind of got the theater bug. And then from there, I got a full ride talent scholarship to UNLV. And that's where I learned a bunch of theater stuff and musical theater and all that great stuff. And I took a stand-up comedy class from a guy named Davey Marlon Jones, who taught me a lot about comedy. And then I kind of continued that with Jerry Corley,
that's who I got training from.
Oh yeah, Jerry Corley is he's awesome. I love Jerry. I mean, and he's one of those guys. He just loves what he does, and he cares about his students, and he really, I love Jerry. I can't say enough good things about him. He's a cool cat.
Yeah. I went studying the internet, scoured for a good, reputable teacher. Man, have you ever done
Yeah.
that? It's like ridiculous. You have to swipe left or right forever.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things on there, but yeah, Jerry's is just, I mean, just the way that he presents it, it's very simple, and you just go, oh, that's an easy way to get to a joke, and you just learn a lot from him really fast, and yeah, he's a cool cat. I really like Jerry.
Yeah, if you guys want good training, you should get out there and find out Jerry Corley. His book is an ebook, Breaking
Mm.
Comedy's DNA. It
Yep.
just helps you break down. They say there's no shortcuts, but I'm thinking that's a shortcut.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like when and a lot of comics have that thing where they say, "Oh, we can't teach funny. You can't teach funny." It's like yeah, there's a certain talent that goes into it. That you just naturally have an ability, but you can learn the ins and outs of what makes people laugh and structure and things like that, and that propels you a lot faster, right? It's like it keeps you from having to do open mics for 7 years before you get a paid gig to getting you there a lot faster, I think.
Yeah. I got permission from Jerry Corley to teach his course, Breaking Comedy's DNA, in Portland at Harvey's Comedy Club. But
Oh, that's
I
cool.
left Portland to come here. So
Yeah,
John
yeah. I
Barnhart
am.
and him already do it
We
here. So
Oh yeah. Don's a cool cat too. But yeah, I mean, I use because I teach at UNLV part time. I teach stand up comedy and sketch comedy, and I use Jerry's book too.
oh wow. And there's a young guy, the military guy, young guy that's in the military up at Nellis that teaches. He says he teaches over there too. Garrett Hall.
Oh, Garrett Hall. He teaches
Yeah,
at
he says he
UNLV.
teaches up at UNLV.
Huh. Yeah. I don't know what he teaches, but yeah, I mean,
Said comedy.
it's yeah. I gotta hit him up and see what he's doing over there. Yeah. Because I know. Let's see, Adam London. If you know who Adam London is, he had the show Laughter Noon, which was downtown. It was at the D. Yeah, it was a
Laughter
family
what?
friendly show. It was called Laughter Noon. It was like a magic comedy show that was at the D for years. He teaches stand up comedy at community college.
Oh,
So yeah, and actually, funny thing, me and him worked at Roxy's Diner together back in the day. So
wow.
yeah.
So what has been your experience during the pandemic? like on both ends of the spectrum, the sad, heartbreaking part that you want to address, and then the funniest behaviors you've observed?
Um, gosh, I mean, there's a this has been such a crazy pandemic with with everything that's going on in the world. Is like, I mean, definitely the world needs comedy clubs. I mean, you know, I
It's
think that goes without
essential.
saying. Yeah, it's like you don't, people aren't laughing or smiling as much as they used to. It's a really tough time. In the pandemic, it's one of those things, like when it first started, like the first like 2 weeks, I was good, right? You're like, okay, cool. I'm doing stuff around the house, hanging out, and then after a while, I'm like, oh man, because this is really the longest stint I've gone without performing since college, pretty much, right? Like I mean, it's a long period of time to go without doing a show or being on stage or performing or something, right? So it makes things a little difficult. Yeah, the downside is there's a lot of people out there that are doing this alone. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a wife, I have a baby. It's like there's stuff like that. But people that are going it alone, that are just like, oh, I've been sitting in my house for weeks by myself. You're like, oh gosh, I can't imagine. It would drive me nuts, right? But there's some good things. It's like every time there's any sort of really terrible tragic thing, you always see the good in people that starts to come out. And that's a really cool thing to see, and also to see artists create when they're forced to create on a different plane.
Yes.
I think that's super awesome. Like, you've seen musicians do these shows where they're playing. The guy from Foo Fighters, David Grohl, did the Times Like These and had all the other musicians sing part of it. And I mean, you just see all these cool things. I mean, stand-up comics have done Zoom shows and all of that stuff. I mean, it's really cool to see artists create when they are pushed to create in a different way. And I really think that Zoom itself has really come to the forefront in a way of communicating with people, right? It's like before, it's like a few people knew about Zoom, but not everybody. And now it's like it's become this huge deal where people can communicate and talk to people on Zoom. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's a good little server to do that.
Yeah. I think that it could have helped a lot of people in the past to make it through tough times, like Anne Frank, Desmond Tutu,
Yeah. They definitely
Osama
could have
bin
used it, right?
Laden.
Yeah, yeah. They could have. All of those people could have definitely used that for sure.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what's something silly you've seen like people do that you're out shopping and you can't believe you saw somebody or you saw it
Well,
on the news?
I mean, one of the craziest things I've seen is with the whole protests and stuff like that and the riots. I saw a video of, there's this guy who was filming like people looting a Target, right? I mean, people just grabbing stuff, and like, you see a lot of the looters, it's like they've got carts, and you see them, they have like Graco, like stuff for babies, and you're like, at least they're looting stuff for their kids. And then you see this white lady with like three identical lamps under her arms, and she's like walking out. And I'm like, that is such a white lady thing to do. It's like she's walking out with three identical lamps. And it's not like they were like the lamps that you're like, oh, those are like, $200 lamps. They were like the $12.99 special lamps. It's like, I'm like, what is she doing?
Oh.
I mean, that was one of the goofiest things I saw. You're gonna brave a riot to get three lamps, really? Is that the thing? you know
I
so
could see
yeah, I
somebody
mean,
getting a touch lamp, and you have to go to, and you get some personal touch when you're home alone.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, something. I mean, there's it's yeah, you've seen a whole bunch of just crazy goofy stuff, but people are people, and but the cool thing is as comedians, that's one of our things. We call out hypocrisy, right? When we see that hypocrisy in our society, we call it out and make
Yeah.
jokes about it, and it kind of, it's really interesting. Like you have the far right and you have the far left, and comedy kind of keeps people more towards the middle, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like once the right goes too far, comedy makes fun of it and pulls it back. Once the left goes too far, comedy makes fun of it and pulls it right back. So it's interesting to see how comedy keeps that balance.
No wonder they
For
don't think we're
society.
essential.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like, get rid of those guys.
Do you still do improv sketches and shows like that, or is it mostly stand up these days?
Right now it's. I mean, when I get back to it, it'll be more stand up, but we'll definitely do sketch. I mean, I love sketch comedy. It's so much fun, so the goal is to do more of that, and to kind of keep the show going that we had going. I mean, for 2 years, a really good stint, especially on the Strip, right? So hopefully, we can get back to that, once everything evens out. But definitely, I really want to get back to, doing stand up and performing, because the great thing about stand up is, there's only, I only have to worry about me. But when you're doing a professional show or a sketch show or whatever, you've got all these other moving parts, right? The great thing about comedy is it's me and a microphone. If I bomb up there, that's on me. If my jokes aren't good, that's on me. I don't have to worry about anyone else. There's no one else to blame. It's all me. So that's the great thing about it.
I compare it to banking. I was a banker for 20 some years. I forget how many, it's too painful. And so I say it's like, comedy, doing comedy on stage is like, as opposed to, sketch or improv, is like the difference between being the branch manager of the bank. That's like improv or sketch to me. And being a teller, that's not that it's lower, but all you have to do is just get the customers out of there.
Yeah, just move them through. Yeah, it's definitely a little different, which is, I mean, and that's the cool thing about it is like, there's, I'm one of those people, like, I could never go to a job and and that's why, I own my own businesses and stuff like that, is I can never go to a job and do the same thing every single day, where it's like, oh, you show up, you do this. Okay, you put in this report, you type this in by, 2:00, and then by 4:00 you do this, and then 5:00 you run your reports and you get out. Like, I couldn't do that. It would drive me absolutely nuts. I have to have variety, and that's I think why, I dabble in so many different things, is because variety is a big thing for me.
The only time we ever got any chance to use improv. I mean, I'd make jokes with the customer. The only time I got to use improv was when I got robbed.
Like, I could do that. It would drive me absolutely. Oh, you got robbed?
Yeah, 4 times.
Holy moly. 4 times.
That's when you got to do improv.
Yeah, they're like, rob that lady. So was it one of those things where you had like the packets? Did you have those little die packets that you put in there? Did you sneak them in every time, or was it just like you were like, nah?
Every time.
Really? See, that's good. That's good. My brother used to work at a bank, and he said, he didn't get robbed. He was like in the back or whatever, but like one of the tellers got robbed, and it's like the robber knew exactly, like she snuck the little packet in there and put it in. It was like in the money, and he goes, no, not that one, and he just left it there and then took the rest. And you're like, oh, I was like, that guy knew what was up. Like, he had it down pat. So
one time I went to an improv show and I was a really bad girl. It was one of those improvs where they asked the audience, should they do A or B, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just when you thought you were done helping them, they'd ask you A or B again. And I like, it was dragging down the show, and so nobody knew A or B. They couldn't say A or B. And so the person up on stage that was leading it said, well, what should we do? And I blurted out, improvise.
Improvise, why not? You're like, do that. Yeah. When you're doing improv, there's such a fine line between getting too many audience suggestions and running the show, right? Like, there's a fine line, and there's like Second City and what's the other, Groundlings. I mean, Groundlings, if you ever get a chance to see one of their shows in LA, they're so good at it, man. They are so good at what they do with the improv world. I mean, it's great to see them fire on all cylinders, because those guys are like the top, right? I mean,
you feed into Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you see a Groundlings production of improv. I mean, it's great, and it's always sold out, right? It's like, they've got that small, like, I think it looks like it's like 80 seats or 100 seats or something like that. And every night it's sold out. Every show they do like 3 shows a night or something like that. And they're all great shows, so it's pretty fun.
Have you had aspirations of going into the feeding in towards Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I would definitely love to be on Saturday Night Live. I mean, at this stage in my life, I think I would serve better as like a writer. But I would love to be on the show. It would be great. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, when I was younger, I thought about going to LA, and then, I went out to LA for a few weeks and I was like, man, I hate LA. No offense, people in LA, but it's just like, it's not the city for me, like the traffic and things like that. And being so expensive. And I'm just like, I don't want to, I'm one of those people, I don't want a room with, 8 people just so I can make rent and have to sleep on a couch. And, that's, so that's why I really never pushed really hard to LA. I mean, I've done a bunch of auditions in LA, where I would just drive back and forth. I did that for many years, and
Let's
did all
talk
kinds
about
of
those
stuff.
auditions. You've been in a ton of movies.
A handful, yes.
That was so cool. Like you were in Stealing Las Vegas. That was a big one, wasn't it?
Yes, Stealing Las Vegas was actually done at it was like a co-production with the UNLV film department back in the day. So that was a really cool little thing. But yeah, I did that. That was like that was more of a smaller thing, but it was still fun. I mean, it
Security
was,
guard.
yeah. It's just fun just being on, to work and do stuff on camera and, be around that cool energy and stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, I've done a bunch of different stuff. I've done stuff for like the Game Show Network. I did this one film where it was called Whales. But basically they talked about Vegas whales, and like when some of these people that, when they spend a boatload of money in Vegas, they call them whales. And these whales, some of them have the weirdest things that they do. And I actually played this guy. They called him the Bubble Boy because he was this
You tell
young
them
guy.
what?
They called him the Bubble Boy. He was this young guy that was really afraid of germs. He was totally, so he would literally play, cards in this suit. Like that was his thing. It was so weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. That was kind of fun. I did a made for TV thing. There's that movie 21 that came out years ago about the guys from MIT who, learned how to cheat the 21 card game. We did a made for TV version of that before that movie came out, and it was pretty cool to kind of learn the way that they did the cards and stuff like that. And those guys are geniuses to be able to count that quick,
Yeah. What's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your comedy life? Improv or at the restaurant singing, or did you do funny singing at the restaurant or straight singing?
Yeah. At the restaurant, we did all kinds of stuff. Like we even did sketches. Like we would do like old Coca-Cola commercials. From like the 40s and 50s. We would do all kinds of fun stuff. It was a cool little place. So yeah, and the majority of it was very comedically based, right? It was very, we didn't really do many things that were serious. It was all bubblegum and fun, and it was a really cool place. But yeah, I mean, as far as stuff that I've seen that was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of funny stuff, man, and I've seen a lot of funny comedians. It's amazing the amount of really funny comedians that are out there that people don't know their names, right?
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Like you're like, man, there's some great comedians out there, and they could easily have their own HBO special or their own Netflix special, right? But they just don't yet, and hopefully they will, because so it's like, I mean, I'm a student of comedy, and I also am a fan of comedy. Like I'd love to go and see acts, and it's like if there's someone I haven't seen before and I'm doing on a show, I'll go out and just watch them, and just see what they got.
Nice.
I mean, and I also think it's important to watch the other comics, because when me and my wife when we were last in New York, there's a comedy club right there at Times Square. I can't remember the name of the comedy club though, but you go up there and be like, cool. No, I can't remember the name of it. No, it's on like the second level. It's kind of like a little, I mean, it doesn't really look very comedy club-esque. It's like they just kind of put it up, and it's got like 3 rooms going at the same time, right?
Wow.
It's like they bring they start them in like, I guess 15 or 20-minute increments, and then they, just keep them rotating all night if they can. And I go in there and we sit down, and there was 5 comedians that night, and every single comedian went through the audience and said, "Where are you from?" what do you do for a living, to every single person. And you're like, so by the fifth comic, it's like, he was like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm like, that guy's from Canada. He's an accountant. It's like everyone, the crowd just like shouting out these different things, because, they didn't pay attention to the other comics, because sometimes you can find some really cool stuff if if a comic says something to someone and it's funny and you can think of a little tag on it. When you go up there, go, oh yeah, and then, jump in a little bit and then move on with your set, right? It's like, that way it makes it seem like everyone's working together a little bit. I mean, I think it's important to watch the other comics, because a lot of times, you get comics that just go off and talk in the back forever, or, don't pay attention. And you're like, dude, it's like, pay attention to the other people. Sometimes you can find something, right?
I'm a huge studier of comedy, because I'm just like not even 6 years into this yet. So I'm studying every chance I get, the good, bad, and a few in between.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I mean, so some comics, people love, and you go, okay, that's not my favorite comics, but that's great. They're working, and what they're doing is worthwhile, and that's great, and then you get some comics that are just amazing and stellar. And, but yeah, I try to study as many as I possibly can to get them, to see what they're doing, and especially because the comedy world's always shifting and changing. Right. So, to kind of keep a flow with it is a good thing, to listen to these other guys. Like, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like when people go, oh yeah, I haven't seen, Bill Burr's new special or Dave Chappelle's new special, and you're like, man, that's like cutting edge new comedy, man. You got to jump on that and check that stuff out. I mean, they're really good stuff, so.
Yeah, they're out there in the forefront cutting it, and we need to be aware of what's cutting edge. It's really important.
Yeah.
But there's, doing these interviews, I've had so many people on that have 30, 40 years in the business, and they've opened for huge comics, and they toured with huge comics, and toured with Cher, and, people are especially in Vegas, there's so many talented comics that I don't see on stage that have done so much. It's so humbling.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, there's some comics that have done amazing things, and guys that have been in the business for years and years and years, and you're just like, wow. I mean, that's some longevity, right? It's like, talk about sticking with it. I mean, you see people that I mean, of all these comics that you see that come and go throughout time, we've all seen it. To see these guys that have been doing it for 40 years, you're like, wow, that guy's really he's really accomplished something. He or she has really accomplished something. That's quite a feat to be in the business for 40 years.
And I think they deserve our utmost respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
They've taken bullets, they've dodged bullets, they've paved the way for us. They've helped comedy stay alive, So.
Oh yeah, especially during those downtimes, right? It's like, there's comedy always has these peaks and valleys, right? It's like, it's when it's good, when it's bad, and it's like the guys that kept it going all those years, they've seen the peaks and the valleys and been through them all, and they're just going to keep going, until they can't go anymore, right?
Yes. So Jason, I would like to know, who's the biggest person that you've been able to do comedy with?
Well, yeah, I opened for Ben Bailey. You ever see the show Cash Cab that's on TV?
Yes, Ben Bailey.
Yeah. So I opened for him. He was super cool, man. Like I had a great time with him. I mean, and it was interesting because and I opened for the Dan Band as well, if you know who they are. That was at the House of Blues, the Dan Band. Yeah, and but yeah, Ben Bailey was great, really cool guy. It was one of those things, like I walked in the room and I looked and I was like, wow, there's a lot of chairs. It was a Green Valley Ranch, and there was like 1,400 chairs in there. And I looked and I go, are they going to remove some chairs or something? Like, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a thing, right? And they go, oh no, we're sold out. And I was like, wow, okay. So here I am, so I opened for him, and it worked out. It was really great. It worked out really well. And he was a really funny guy, and he was super cool. And, yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. That was a blast. And then opening for the Dan Band was super cool because, it was on the main stage at the House of Blues, which is a really cool thing. But I was so nervous because all you hear is like these stories about how so-and-so opened for a band and it didn't go well. Like Jay Leno, I think it's Jay Leno. Jay Leno has a story about like he was opening for some sort of band, and some dude goes, "You suck," and reached up and pulled the microphone and broke the microphone, so he couldn't finish his set. So he didn't get paid that night, and he had to pay for the microphone. And you just hear these like horrible stories about that, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, is this a good idea? And but when I went out there, and I did 30 minutes before they went on, and the audience was like, and usually you think, okay, I'm the opener, it's a band, so people are going to be filtering in, no one's going to pay attention. I got out there and everyone was just like eyes up, paying attention, ready to have fun. Like, it was super cool. It was a really, really cool experience to have that big of an audience to look at you and just laugh. And it was almost completely sold out too. So it was great.
Wow. That gives me chills to hear that story.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things, you just get that, and it's like, you're standing in the back and you just see that huge crowd out there, and the music kicks up and they introduce you, and you're walking out on stage and lights are, they do those like concert lights where it's flickering, and you're just like, wow, this is okay, here we go, this is it. I mean, it was a blast, man. I had so much fun though.
I do comedy for veterans. I was in the Army, and I did a show in Vancouver for veterans at a veteran stand down. It's a once a year thing outside. Mm-hmm. And there were 1,000 veterans that came, and we did it in the parking lot with no microphone. And so I opened it. I just said hello to everybody, and then I introduced the first comic, and I had told him he wasn't military. It has to be totally clean, politically correct. Yeah. So he grabs the mic and he says, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm not very politically correct. And all of these people turned around and left. I think there might have been 100 of them left by the time I should have grabbed the mic and said, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like, I mean, you have to realize who you are as a comic, right? Like there's some comics like you can write for anything, right? And there's some comics that they're like, hey, I'm not going to deviate. This is my set. And it's like, that's cool if that's your thing, but let people know that who book you. Like when someone says, hey, I want you to do clean, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not very clean. Then at least they know that. Versus you go up there and then go, well, I'm not very clean, and then go into your stuff. You're like, don't do that. It's like, if people expect you to do something, do it, man. It's got nothing to do with someone trying to tell you what to do or how to be funny. They're literally just saying, this is what we want for this product that we're putting up, and being a veteran, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jason.
I think it's awesome. I mean, I wear my grandfather's dog tags all the time on stage.
What branch?
It's a replica. He was in World War II, and he was in the Air Force.
Nice. What did he do where was he when the war was over? Where was he that day?
He was in Germany, I believe.
My dad was in a concentration camp there.
Oh my goodness. Holy moly.
My dad was
crazy.
Jewish.
Oh yeah. My grandfather, he was one of the first people drafted and one of the last people to come home.
What?
So yeah. He was there pretty much the whole darn time. He was missing in action for a while because his plane got shot down and all that stuff. But yeah, he's tough as nails guy. But yeah, I always wear his dog tags all the time. Well, it's a replica of his dog tags because his other dog tags time is not is not good to stuff like that. So, but this is a replica of them, and I wear them on stage all the time. I always wear them with me. So.
That's very cool. Thank you for your grandfather, right?
Yes.
Thank you for your grandfather's. I'm going to thank you for his service because you carry the badge of honor in your heart. So thank you.
Yeah. He was a cool guy. He was a really, really awesome guy. So
it's nice that you keep his memory alive like that.
Oh yeah. It's fun. And it's funny because my daughter, I have a 9-month-old baby, and she loves every time I hold her, she just sits there and plays with it, and so it's kind of like she's playing with great grandpa.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
it's cute.
Tell the people what you like to do in your own time when you're not trying to be funny. What are some activities you're into? Baseball, Golden Knights, football. What do you like?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a huge football fan. Like, I love football. I'm a big football fan. I actually coached football at Western High School out here and at Spring Valley High School out here for a little bit. I love football. It's an awesome sport. And yeah, I really enjoy watching it. Yeah, I mean, and it's a big thing. Like, we always get the Sunday ticket package so you can watch all the games. And my brothers come over, and we invite friends over, and we just watch the games. And it's always a blast. It's a really good time. Super fun. But yeah, I'm a big football fan.
Are you into
What else?
college ball or the NFL?
I'm more of an NFL fan, but I do keep my eye on the standouts in college, like the Alabamas, the TCUs, stuff like that,
I'm waiting
but
for
yeah.
Oregon. I'm waiting for Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah, Oregon's seems to always figure out a way, even when they have a couple down years, they always get back in the mix, right? So yeah, Oregon's pretty good. Yeah, but yeah, football's, of course I'm a hockey fan now because we have the Golden Knights. Before, I never really paid attention much to hockey. But so that's kind of cool. I like college basketball more than NBA, which is a little weird, but yeah, because it's like
Oregon?
normally I stick like Oregon, yeah.
Oregon women too.
And what else? Yeah, I mean, other than that, it's like, I just like, trying to be creative. I love spending time with my wife and my daughter. It's amazing how having kids changes things. It just changes your whole psyche. Just flips things around a lot. But yeah, she's super fun to be around. She's such a well-behaved baby, so we have a great time with her. She's a cool kid.
Said she's like 6 months old.
9 months. She just turned 9 months. Yeah.
What's her first name?
Her name's Quinn.
Nice. What made you come up with the name Quinn?
My wife came up with it. It's something that my wife has always wanted to. She, even when we met and we got married, and we didn't know if we were going to have kids. We were like, well, maybe we'll. She was like, yeah, if we have a daughter, I want to name her Quinn. That was a name she's always had. So I was like, hey, I'm not going to fight that fight because you have to carry this thing so you can name it.
That's so cool. You've been a gem of a person to interview. You're very interactive, and your improv helped you a lot here.
Thanks.
I don't know where I'm going with this, but is there any kind of inspiration you want to give people before you sign off? How to make it
well,
our first pandemic, or
I guess the thing is in life we're always taught to sell ourselves short, right? And people, it's like, oh, understate all the time, don't get it, don't have a big head. But I think people need to, and that's important, and it's got a point in life. But when it's yourself, you have to realize that humans are a lot stronger than we think we are, at all times, and that's something that I think that people always sell themselves short on. It doesn't matter what age you are, who you are, where you live, anything like that. You can always accomplish things if you attack it with the right amount, of pressure. If you go after it, that's the thing. It's like, and it's always going to be harder than you think it is. Nothing's as easy as you think it is, but just realize in every situation, you're always better than you think you are. And that's one of those things. It's like, and I me as a person, I love inspiring people, and I love making them laugh. That's why I do what I do. To make someone laugh is one of the greatest things you can give them. Why do we give people gifts? Because we want to see them smile, we want to see them giggle, we want to see them laugh. Why do we make faces at little kids for hours? Because we want to see them laugh. Laughter is the key to everything, right? And if you can make one person laugh per day that normally wouldn't have laughed, then you've done the world a huge service, right? And that's the thing. You've taken them out of their existence that they currently aren't having a good time with, and you've made them even smile or chuckle a little bit. And I think that's an important thing. You're
right on. That's why when I go on an airplane, that's why I always play peekaboo with every pilot. No matter
I'm sure
what.
You're popular with the pilots.
I don't care if they're distracted, right? What do I care?
Yeah, exactly.
That's their problem. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been a blast. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Whenever you're now a graduate of the Comic Spot interview, and whenever you have anything to announce, please come back and say it here.
Absolutely, will do for sure. Sounds good.
And I'll get with you on the names of other people I know that interview.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm around. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Thank you so much, Jason Outlaw, you guys. Oh, where can people follow you on the internet?
They can follow me at Jason Outlaw Comedy is the majority of my handles. So Jason Outlaw Comedy. My website is jasonoutlawcomedy.com. On Instagram, it's Jason Outlaw Comedy. On Facebook, it's Jason Outlaw Comedy. So yeah, so you can find me at Jason Outlaw
Twitter,
Comedy.
Instagram, and your website.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm on TikTok too, even though I haven't really made a video on there. And Snapchat as well. So.
Wow, Snapchat.
Yeah.
And is that Jason Outlaw or Jason Outlaw Comedy on those?
It's Jason Outlaw Comedy, I believe.
Okay. Wonderful. And I don't know, has the pandemic caused you and your wife to have a financial setback? And do you want to give people your PayPal, Venmo, Cash App?
Yeah, I mean, we got kind of killed on that, because I mean, everything we do is independent contractor based. Even our businesses, there's sometimes we're employing up to 20 people, but they're all independent contractors. So we weren't eligible for any business loans. We made too much money previous years. So we didn't get the $1,200 stimulus or anything like that. So we literally got nothing throughout this whole thing. We just weren't eligible for anything. So it's definitely been interesting for sure. But yeah, my Venmo is Jason-Outlaw-1.
Jason-Outlaw-1.
Yep. That's the one they gave me, so I took it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Super. I'll put that on there.
Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, and it's so much fun chatting with you. It's a good time.
Likewise. I'll post all of what you just told me onto the post, and then check it and make sure that I didn't mess anything up, and give me the thumbs up or down privately or public. I don't care. I make mistakes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Lots.
See you. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.